Welcome once again to Captain Fred's Aviation Theater. Today we're visiting with Patrick De La Garza at Montgomery Airport, and this is the Sky Aero Flying Club, or soon to be.
Soon to be.
Tell our viewers, first of all, how you became involved with the Sky Aero, because I'm sure it's a new airplane to most people.
I became involved earlier this year. A friend of mine is the director of marketing for the company in Europe, and he needed to replace the marketing manager that was here before because he was European, didn't understand the American market. So he gave me a call. Since I've been marketing airplanes in the United States for 25 years or so.
To understand the American market, you need to be a little crazy, don't you?
Well, the American market's different. It's different than Europe. We have such things as competition here, which is not quite as severe in Europe, and you have to understand how it's done here.
Now, this is an Italian airplane.
Correct.
Built in Italy.
Correct.
And up until the time that you came on board, it was sold as a kit?
Well, it started out as a kit in about 1992 or so. Its lineage was strictly a kit in Europe. Then they began selling kits here in the United States. And then in 1997, they certified the airplane under JARVLA.
Which means it's a factory-built airplane.
It's a factory-built airplane. It conforms to all the standards that any Cessna or Piper or any other certified airplane in the United States does.
So now people have a choice of buying it as a kit or as a ready-to-fly airplane.
That's correct. If we build it in our factory in Rome, it's a certified airplane. If you build it, even though it's built from kits or from parts that come off the production line in Rome, it is an experimental airplane.
Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about it. The major types of aircraft are wood and fabric, metal, and epoxy or fiberglass. This is a composite airplane?
It's an all-composite airplane with a few metal fittings to hold the wings on, but it's made of carbon fiber instead of fiberglass. That gives it a very superior strength-to-weight ratio. It gives it added stiffness. So we can get away with a very light airplane here in comparison to either fiberglass or to metal.
For our viewers, carbon fiber is sort of like epoxy with an SOS pad ground up in it.
That's correct.
Now, Bert Rutan in a previous interview told me that carbon fiber, or composite, is 1/5 the weight of steel, but twice as strong. Would you tell our viewers what that does to the airplane?
Well, for example, this airplane here has a gross weight of 1,430 pounds, but it only weighs right at 900 pounds, plus or minus, depending on how it's
The airplane itself only weighs 900 pounds.
900 pounds. So obviously with a metal airplane of this size, you'd have an airplane considerably heavier than that. And that's how we get away with using a small engine and the other economical factors it takes to fly the airplane.
Tell our viewers about the engine. It's an interesting one.
It's a Rotax 912 engine.
Which has, up until now, mostly been used on experimentals.
Well, the original Rotax engines, the two-stroke, two-cylinder engines, were all experimental engines. This one's a four-cylinder, four-stroke engine, air-cooled barrels, water-cooled heads. It's a fully certified engine under FAR 33.
Manufactured in Austria?
Manufactured in Austria. It's the factory itself is owned by Bombardier, which manufactures the Learjet, Canadair, those airplanes.
The Rotax engine is an excellent engine. I've always said that if they made a four-stroke, they would have the best of both worlds.
Well, this is a four-stroke engine. Uses about 4.3 gallons per hour, and as a matter of fact, in the pattern around here, we can get it down as low as 3.5 gallons an hour.
3.5 gallons. How many horsepower?
80 horsepower.
80 horsepower burning 3.5 gallons. Wow.
That's because of the superior SFCs that you can get, because with water cooling, you can make the barrels a lot tighter in terms of their tolerances.
So it's a water-cooled engine. That means it has a radiator.
Correct. Yep.
What kind of a propeller do you have attached to this Rotax engine?
It's a fully certified propeller made by Hoffman under Part 35 of the FARs. That allows us to fly both day and night VFR conditions.
And What about the passenger compartment? It's tandem, front and back.
That's correct. The pilot sits in the front. When you solo this airplane, you solo the airplane from the front. And the reason we do that is because you have to be able to reach fuel boosts, change the radios and that type of thing, and you can't do that from the back.
So the pilot always flies in front?
The pilot always flies in front. Now, for a situation where you have a student in front and an instructor in the back, the instructor obviously sits in the back. So we have a period of about an hour to familiarize the student with where the switches are before he flies his first flight.
All right. It has wonderful vision, 360, 270-degree vision.
It sure does.
So it would be good for aerial photography or
It's
scientific observation?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, these windows here, these windows come out, just two little tabs at the top, and they come out so the photographer can sit in back and shoot, obviously, in both directions on the ground. This particular airplane's got a hole in the bottom where you can mount a FLIR or a I forgot the name of the camera, but it's a big camera that can be either controlled from the ground or controlled by the pilot himself.
It could either be a still camera or a video camera?
Or a video camera, that's correct.
So it could be used for checking telephone lines or for ecology, checking rivers and things like that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, part of it also is we've had some interest by Border Patrol and people like that who want to put a FLIR in it because they can fly at night, low altitude, low noise, and to be able to detect people coming across the border.
This would be good for the Border Patrol because of its visibility and because of its economics.
And it's low operating costs. This airplane can fly, actually we can fly this airplane at about $16 to $17 an hour depending on what breaks and what doesn't break, but $16 to $17 an hour.
Now it's tricycle landing gear.
Correct.
Is the nose wheel steerable?
No, the nose wheel is steered by differential braking. And it's a little unusual in that respect because we don't have toe braking. We have finger brakes. You can see it right there. You just pull back on one or the other. It sounds a little complicated, but
it's like driving a tank.
It's very natural.
A tank is the same way.
I wouldn't call it a tank.
Well, but the tank has two treads,
yeah,
and it's one or the other,
correct,
or both, and you can steer it that way. So it's the same principle.
It's the same principle. It's really quite natural.
What else would you like to tell our viewers about the airplane? A lot of new interesting concepts.
This airplane is just a great airplane to fly. It's designed with a high lift wing. It stalls at 38 knots, flaps down. So it'd be nearly impossible to hurt yourself in it. It's meant for people who don't fly a lot but still have the love of flying. They can fly this airplane 40 hours a year and still be pretty proficient in it.
What would the takeoff roll be, do you know?
It's right around 500 feet. So it's not, it takes off pretty quickly. And same with landing.
And the climb speed?
Climb speed's right at 65 knots.
And it would do what, 500 feet per second?
Well, maybe
per minute?
500 feet per minute. Correct.
If it's 500 feet per second, I'll buy one.
I'd like to have that myself.
500 feet per minute. And then it would cruise at about what?
Cruises right about 90 knots or so.
Okay. We have a jet taking off. We are at Montgomery Airport, and this is a live, unrehearsed program. Excuse me, it will cruise at what?
At about 90 knots.
90 knots, which is 104 miles an hour.
104 miles an hour. It has about 4 hours worth of fuel on board, so we have a range of right at 400 miles.
Okay. We're visiting now with Wayne Johnson, who is the operations manager for Sky Aero. Tell us what the operations manager does.
Well, I'm the one that gets to take care of everything back at the office. In addition to that, I get to fly. So I've got the best of both worlds.
Wow. I would try to do as little as possible in the office and as much as possible of the flying.
That's a stated objective.
Yeah. Are you in charge of the maintenance too?
No, I'm not in charge of the maintenance. A few minutes later, you're going to meet Bradley King, who is our A&P, which is the maintenance officer for the organization.
So if somebody was interested in buying one of these airplanes, you're the one they would contact?
They would either contact me or Patrick De La Garza. We both talk to customers and prospective people that are interested in the plane. We could discuss price, performance, logistics of it, having a plane delivered, and any details that you have, we just answer.
What if somebody was interested in becoming a member of the new flying club that you're going to organize?
Well, you give us a call, and at the moment we take your name down, but within the next 3 months we will have memberships available, and you'll be able to fly the plane.
How would this plane rate as a trainer?
It would rate very high. It's a very simple plane to fly. Your cruise and stall speeds are relatively low, and you stall about 38 knots with the flaps down.
Which is slower than a glider flies.
Some gliders are slower than that. I also fly gliders, and there's a lot of similarities to it.
But I've flown 126, 123, and I fly them at 50 miles an hour. So 38 is, you're down in glider territory.
Very definitely. In fact, some of the heritage for this plane is a glider heritage. It was designed in Italy. The people that designed the plane also were into gliders at one time, shortly after World War II.
Let's talk about the flying club and students learning. Now, the student pilot would sit in the front, and the instructor would sit in the back. Is it dual control?
It is dual control. The instructor can fly the plane from the back seat.
And it does not have a wheel, it has a stick.
It has what we call a side stick.
I was going to say, but it's not a stick like most people know.
No, it doesn't sit down between your legs. It's on your right hand. It's your elbow leans on the side of the fuselage. Now to your right hand, your left hand, you have the throttle, and it's right there by your fingertips.
And you fly it with your right hand over on the side.
Right.
And it slides back and forth in a tube.
It slides back and forth to change your longitudinal altitude, which is nose up or nose down. You twist it to right or left to dip one wing or the other. Now, the people that look at this plane, there are two people that identify with it right away, and they're both extremes. It's glider pilots and fighter pilots. The glider pilots look at the visibility, and they love it. The fighter pilots look at the side stick and the visibility, and they love that too. So we have people from all backgrounds that have fun in this plane.
The Very Easy and the Long Easy had the side stick like that.
Yes, they did. They both had a side stick.
Does this have any other innovations or new modern aspects?
A couple things that people don't expect in a plane of this price and performance is it has electric trim, electric flaps.
Electric trim. That
Yes.
means you don't have to manually pull it back and forth or turn the crank.
You don't have to turn a crank, you just push a button on the stick. Forward button is nose down, back button is nose up.
Everything I fly, you either slide it back and forth or you turn a wheel or you crank it. But with this, on the yoke or on the stick,
On the stick.
you've got a button. You just press it with your thumb, and you've got electric trim going up and
Right.
down.
And what you do with that is you set it into your level attitude or your climb attitude. You trim it for that attitude and speed, and it just stays right there.
So you could trim it up and fly hands off.
Absolutely. We do that all the time. Okay, one of the things we do when we take people up for an introductory flight is we trim it. We take our hands off. We tell them to keep their hands and feet off the controls. And 2 or 3 minutes later, they're still the exact same attitude and same altitude.
And the truth is, if the airplane is trimmed right, it will fly better than you could fly it yourself.
Yes, you do pick up fuel economy and speed both. And if you're in a glide configuration, you also extend your glide by having it hands off, because you keep the controls absolutely steady and you don't disrupt the airflow, and it's more efficient.
Very good. Thank you for visiting with us today. Welcome back to Captain Fred's Aviation Theater. It's a thrill and an honor for me to introduce our next guest, Sky King. I used to watch you on TV all the time.
People make that mistake often. My name's Brad King. Sky King was my father.
Brad King. Oh, this is Brad King. And he's going to tell us about the technical aspects of the plane. But first, tell us about your trip to Tucson.
Actually, we just returned from Tucson this weekend. It was a great trip. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour trip. No problems. Plane's not really designed as a cross-country plane, but you can do it.
Now, you flew for 4 hours without stopping
Actually, we stopped for fuel on the way there and on the way back.
at Yuma Airport.
Well, Yuma Airport on the way back. On the way there, we stopped at a little town called Dateland that had a nice straight road and a gas station.
They don't have an airport there.
No, they do now.
They do? Oh, did you buy car gas?
Just bought car gas.
Oh, so this airplane can run on car gas.
Yes, sir, it can.
Tell us about that gas stop.
Well, it was no problem. You need a very short runway. A nice straight road will do fine with no power lines, and then taxi up to the gas station.
Did they clean your windshield and check your oil?
No, they stayed away from us. I think they thought we were a little strange.
Now, how did you get the gas from the gas pump into the airplane?
Well, you can actually get close enough to the gas pump for the...
Oh, is that right? So you just took the pump and,
Yes, sir.
gassed it up. You
Yes,
didn't have to put it in a can and then put it in.
No, just put it right in the plane.
That's very interesting. What would you like to tell our viewers briefly about the mechanics or the technical aspect of the plane?
Well, I do the maintenance. I think I have the best of both worlds. I do the maintenance here and I get to fly the planes as well.
I would assume that it's very low maintenance.
It's very low maintenance. I love composite materials. If you were to get a hole in this plane or a dent, you fix it like you would a surfboard or a fiberglass boat, instead of having to replace a whole aluminum panel like you would on a metal plane. The engine, I love the engine. The engines are very, very dependable. I've worked on Continentals and Lycomings for a good part of my life, and I'm very sold on these engines.
Very good. Thank you for visiting with us today.
Thank you.
With us now is Christina Halterman, who, in case you haven't noticed, is a woman pilot. As a matter of fact, she's the chief pilot here for this airplane. Christina, would you tell our viewers when and where you learned to fly?
I learned to fly in Italy, where I attained my private pilot license, and then I came to the United States to attain the instrument and the commercial license.
What kind of airplane did you learn to fly in?
I learned to fly in a Portanavia. It's a P-66 Charlie. It's
That's an Italian airplane?
That's correct. It's a high wing. It looks like a 172.
Similar to a Cessna 172.
That's correct.
And then you immigrated to the United States?
Yep, I met my husband here in the United States.
And you got some further training here, I believe.
Yes, I went ahead and got my CFI, flight instructor.
That's a certified flight instructor.
And then my multi-engine commercial.
Multi-engine and commercial.
Yes.
So you're well qualified to be the chief pilot here.
Sure.
From the woman's point of view, what would you like to tell our audience? First of all, tell the ladies that they don't need arm strength to fly this airplane.
That's true. It's a really light aircraft, and you can literally fly it with 2 fingers.
And the visibility?
Visibility is great. It's the best visibility that I found in any other aircraft I've flown.
It's unusual to have the wing behind the cabin.
It is, and the engine is behind, so you have nothing in the way, and it's really safe. You can see all the aircraft, the traffic, and it's a joy to fly.
If the women in our audience wanted to come out and fly with a woman instructor, they could ask for you and you would be the one who would teach them to fly?
Yes, I would be the one.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers about women pilots or about the airplane?
Well, I think the women should come out and try this airplane because it's a real joy to fly, and you'll really fall in love with the airplane once you fly it.
Very good. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
As always, this is Captain Fred saying, I love airplanes and I honor the people who fly them.